Thank you, Dr. Hill. I am excited to share with you information about the comprehensive review. We have had additional community meetings, gathered more information, gathered information and feedback from the day. It's the last time we presented, so you'll see some additional updates and information to clarify the comprehensive review in phase 1. So again, we have our phases here that we've started. They will end after we have our vote of approval or not. A decision is made at our vote on our board meeting on September the 24th. And we'll go from there through our phases. We'll go to phase 2, where we'll focus on modernizing our systems, also making sure that we provide training for our principals, and then really look into a lot of the things that we just discussed with our CTE supports and how they connect with our magnet programming. And throughout all of this, we have lifted it in phase 3, but we'll continue to work with transportation to make sure that our students have access to these programs. So again, looking back at the approval of our bond referendum, looking forward the proposed 25-26 projects, and then we have superintendent's recommendation to the Board of Education for 25-26 projects. So here's our timeline that started actually in February. We identified and began working with our partners to prepare the groundwork for this comprehensive review that will occur over the course of this entire school year. We continue to have community engagement meetings, and we'll do so throughout the school year to gather feedback from the community. August the 5th through the 22nd, we participated in open houses and listened and had a table and had a QR code for families to give us feedback and also to input feedback later as well. And then we continue our communication and feedback collection following our board meeting. We'll continue to do so up to our public hearing and the board vote. We have our public hearing on September the 10th, and then September the 24th is the Board of Education vote. So as we have continued to engage throughout the community, I've lifted up here the variety of ways that we've engaged: 23 in-person listening sessions with 226 participants, 15 virtual listening sessions with over 850 registrations, 109 responses to our online survey and feedback form, and 239 views of our pre-recorded online presentation. We've had over 200 families connect with us at open houses, and we're continuing to collect that data with our third-party provider to gather feedback to share with you. So Project 1, Creative and Visual Arts Expansion. So elementary, University Park Creative Arts will become a full choice magnet. University Park Creative Arts and First Ward Creative Arts newly assigned attendance boundary would be adjusted to Bruns Avenue Elementary School. First Ward Creative Arts will become a full-choice middle school serving current 6th through 8th grade Northwest School of the Arts students. Our high school then would be Northwest School of the Arts, and it will serve 9 through 12 students. And so that means our middle school students move to First Ward Creative Arts, and those two current elementary schools, those students would move to Bruns Avenue as their attendance boundary. Here are the maps. Here are the updated maps with the new attendance boundaries, the recommendation. And then I want to walk through some of the data with the enrollment numbers. So University Park Creative Arts, their projected enrollment as of April was 205 students. With the adjusted K-5 configuration for 25-26, they would serve 434 elementary art students, school capacity of 680. First Ward Creative Arts K-5, currently today the projected enrollment was 400 students. With the adjusted configuration for them to become a middle school in 25-26, they would serve 391 students with a school capacity of 800. Bruns Avenue K-5, which would become the new attendance boundary for University Park Creative Arts and First Ward Creative Arts in 25-26, they would serve 597 students forecasted. Their current enrollment today, Bruns Avenue, is 357, and they have a school capacity of 780 students. And Northwest School of the Arts today, their projected enrollment as of April was 1,011 students. With their adjusted configuration, they would serve 9 through 12 students, 620 of them in 25-26, with a school capacity of 1,250. So you see that all the capacities, they have space. The goal would be to continue to support this program to be a premier national model of a K-12 expanded creative and visual arts program that all students in the district would have access to participate. So the goal would also be to grow the program across the district. So the board approved University Park Creative Arts that it would become a full-choice elementary school serving, again, the current University Creative Arts and First Ward Charlotte Creative Arts Academy K-5 program choice students on February 28, 2023. Also was approved, the First Ward Creative Arts will become a full-choice middle school serving current 6th through 8th Northwest School of the Arts students, and the Northwest School of the Arts will serve 9 through 12 students, moving the middle school students to First Ward. Our recommendation today is that University Park Creative Arts and First Ward Creative Arts newly assigned attendance boundary will be adjusted to Bruns Avenue Elementary School. Students may continue in the arts program, participate in the lottery or transfer process, or attend their newly assigned homeschool. So additional details, I will let Mr. LaCarrier and Mr. Ivy share about the program.
Thank you, Dr. Balknight. Good evening, members of the board. So as we are aware, in the 2023 bond, we approved work to replace University Park on-site with a new 39-classroom arts-specific elementary school. That work would proceed as planned, even with the combined attendance boundaries there. We are completing the 2017 bond project at Northwest School of the Arts, and then we would move directly into the 2023 bond work, which included the conversion of Northwest to a 9-12 and the renovation of First Ward to support the middle school program. It's important that we have First Ward up and running with the 6-8 program to facilitate the work that we need to do on the very tight and challenged Northwest School of the Arts campus.
So Project 2, our description, the Montessori program currently located at J.T. Williams Secondary Montessori will relocate to the Marie G. Davis facility. All students and staff will move to Marie G. Davis as J.T. Williams Secondary Montessori has no attendance boundaries. So our elementary, current Marie G. Davis K-5 students will be, their recommended attendance boundary would be adjusted to Dilworth Elementary. K-5 students currently attending the IB World program in the Marie G. Davis building may continue in another IB program, participate in the lottery or transfer process, or attend their newly assigned homeschool. Our middle school students currently at Marie G. Davis in grades 6 through 8 be recommended that their attendance boundary would be adjusted to Sedgefield Middle School. 6th through 8th grade students also currently attending the IB World program in the Marie G. Davis building may continue in another program, IB program, participate in the lottery or transfer process, including secondary Montessori, or attend their newly assigned homeschool. Here are the policies that I just want to lift that were impacted in making the recommendations for these two attendance boundaries. This one talks about contiguous boundaries as a requirement, making sure that the school that the students are moved to is in close proximity to the school they're moving from. And then our second policy lifts that it's important for us to look at our SES status of our students so that we have a good blend of students in a school, so that we have a good diverse learning environment for students. And so we consider those things as we're making these decisions. Here are the boundary maps as they currently are. And here are our recommended new boundary maps. And so I'll walk through the data with you. So 24-25, Marie G. Davis IB World School, K-8. They have a projected enrollment as of April of 331 students. Students within the Marie G. Davis attendance boundary in K-5, we have 101 students. So they are assigned to that school. In grades 6 through 8, we have 36 students. So while they have 331 students in the school projected enrollment, we are really talking about the 101 students in grades K through 5 and the 36 students in grades 6 through 8. Those students are assigned to that attendance boundary. And so when you look at the adjusted school configuration, J.T. Williams will move into Marie G. Davis. Their forecasted enrollment for the 25-26 school year would be 402, with space to grow their program because the school capacity is 700. So if you look at Marie G. Davis, again, the projected enrollment is 331. If you look at Dilworth Elementary, their projected enrollment as of April was 639. The combined enrollment of Dilworth and Marie G. Davis with the forecasted enrollment is 740 students. The school capacity is 560, so lots of conversation around that school capacity of 560. I will say that Mr. LeCarry and I and Mr. Ivy went to the school just this week to walk the facility to make sure that, as we shared with you in previous times, that we felt that we could support the school supporting the 700 students that would be in the school, or the 740. And so I'll just say to you, on the second day of school, they have just a little under 700 students in the school today. So the 740 definitely would be a full school, but we could make the situation work for those students to be in there for a year. So Sedgefield Middle School, they have a projected enrollment as of April of 484 students. Combined Sedgefield and Marie G. Davis, they have a forecast enrollment of 521, and they have a school capacity of 1,125. So definitely have space to support the 36 students moving over. So again, this is what the board approved: the Montessori school moving to the Marie G. Davis campus, and the students at Marie G. Davis being moved to another school. The attendance boundaries were not approved in February, so that's the conversation decision that will need to be made in the coming weeks. Superintendent's recommendation, the current Marie G. Davis K-5. So here we have the same recommendation, but I'm sharing with you two different options based on feedback from our previous conversation about this. So current Marie G. Davis K-5 recommended attendance boundary will be adjusted to Dilworth Elementary. Current Marie G. Davis 6-8 students, our recommended attendance boundary will be adjusted to Sedgefield Middle. So students, again, may continue in the IB program, participate in the lottery, or use the transfer process, or attend their newly assigned home school. The options that I'm sharing with you, however, the timeline option 1 would be to move the students in the fall of 25-26. Option 2 would be to move the students in the fall of 26-27. And so I'll let Mr. LeCarry just talk about some of the additional details as you're hearing this information.
So as part of the work in the 2023 bond to try and support and expand the Montessori program, which included the relocation of the former Parkridge School to the Sedgefield site, where we now have Sedgefield Montessori, we also had the work to convert Marie G. Davis back to its intended purpose. It was actually built as a 612 magnet-specific high school program, so we'd be able to repurpose that facility to accommodate a 712 high school secondary program at the Marie G. Davis site. So the necessary renovations that we would want to support the Montessori program, as well as to do the things that we need to do for safety, as well as finally bulldoze the old Kennedy Middle School, which is on the backside of Marie G. Davis. So those are planned as part of this work. We had also stated that Dilworth, because it has facility challenges, the gym's on the second floor, so you really can't have kindergartners and first graders go to PE because of that, and because of the fact that we're landlocked and Mecklenburg County really owns the land around us. It's a park site, so we can't just place portables anywhere. So looking at the facility itself and the site, it did not make sense to have a school with an attendance boundary here. It really needs to be a middle program with the population that will be controlled through a lottery process, through a choice process. So those two things were part of the bond, and they're things that we already are starting to work on. And then this would allow us to, once we have the program that's currently at J.T. Williams at Marie G. Davis, be able to repurpose J.T. Williams, and there's funding in the bond for this work as well, for our alternative education programs that are currently housed at Derita and Pawtucket. And if you'll remember, Pawtucket closed for the first time in 2010. It's an old elementary school, and we currently have high school students in there. So the opportunity is to bring those students to a more appropriate facility, the staff have a better place to work, and be able to support our alternative education program in addition to the Montessoris.
So here I've highlighted for you the transportation zones. So for the students that are assigned to Marie G. Davis, their new transportation zone for IB programming would be the violet zone. So they, for elementary, would have Blythe or Statesville Road as their options, and they could select between the two. For middle school, they'd have the opportunity to attend Alexander, Piedmont, or Ranson Middle for IB programming. They would be provided transportation if they remain in their transportation zone of violet for the magnet students that are assigned to Marie G. Davis. Project 3, Davidson K-8 will become a K-5 school. Grades 6 through 8, Davidson K-8 students will attend Bailey Middle. Davidson will continue to have access to the middle grade spaces and infrastructure while becoming a pre-K school. Bailey will be relieved by new middle school number 2, which is slated to open in August 2028. And I'll stop, Dennis, to let you share additional information about any facility updates here.
Sure. So we do have portables on site at Bailey that have not been used, and there's access to those today. There is additional space if need be to house the students there. We know we have a slightly longer timeline for the delivery of middle school number 2 in 2028, but making the change sooner helps both Davidson and Bailey and sets up for the work that we know that we need to do with the boundary associated with opening middle school 2, which will draw from the southern end of Bailey. So you wouldn't be looking at moving students from Davidson twice. In fact, you wouldn't probably move any students twice because we're talking about a 2028 opening. So families might be impacted, but individual students wouldn't. And then we would also draw from the Bradley and J.M. Alexander attendance boundaries when we're looking to open middle school number 2.
So if you look at the Davidson numbers, Davidson projected enrollment as of April was 1,191 for K-8. The adjusted school configuration, the forecasted enrollment is 777 students with a school capacity of 1,040. Bailey Middle School, their projected enrollment for 24-25 is 1,290. When you combine the Davidson K-8 middle school students with Bailey Middle School, you will have a forecasted enrollment for 25-26 of 1,704. The school capacity 1,140. So as Mr. LeCarry has already lifted, there is a capacity concern with brick and mortar. However, they have several modulars.
Yes, there's a 10-classroom modular and several singles that were not used last year, so we have the opportunity to bring those back online. And then with a middle school, unlike with an elementary school, there's also the ability to gain some capacity through float.
Also, as a part of Project 3, Dorothy J. Vaughan Academy of Technology in Parkside Elementary will become one attendance boundary. All students will attend school in the current Parkside facility. All students will have access to STEM through a partial choice program. Students may continue in another STEM program, participate in a lottery or transfer process, or attend their newly assigned homeschool. So Dorothy J. Vaughan, their projected enrollment as of April was 324 students. As we have not talked about anything next steps for Dorothy J. Vaughan, we'll move to Parkside Elementary with their projected enrollment of 324. When you combine the two schools, and you end up with a forecasted enrollment of 648 students, and there's still space to grow the STEM program in the school as their school capacity is 780. Again, this was approved by the Board of Education for the students to move from Davidson K-8 to Bailey Middle. So the superintendent's recommendation is Dorothy J. Vaughan Academy of Technology in Parkside Elementary will become one attendance boundary. All students will attend the Parkside facility. Dorothy J. Vaughan Academy of Technology students will remain a part of the STEM through a partial choice program at Parkside, and students may continue in the STEM program at Parkside or another school, participate in the lottery or transfer process, or attend their assigned homeschool. Anything else you want to share, Dennis? Project number 4, early college program expansion. All current middle colleges, Cato, Harper, Levine, Marrancas, will transition to early colleges, adding 9th and 10th grade students to all programs. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction supports this conversion as more students will have access. The full grade span provides a more robust model that creates a cohesive framework with a strong college culture and career development opportunities for students. The superintendent's recommendation for board approval, all current middle colleges, Cato, Harper, Levine, Marrancas, will transition to early colleges, adding 9th and 10th grade students to all programs, and the conversion will allow for all middle college programs a transportation zone to promote timely access for all students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. So again, here's a summary of the comprehensive review. So as we conclude the recommendations and go through the public hearing and the board vote, we'll begin phase 2. It's important to continue on this timeline, as this timeline impacts us making sure that we can support our families as they make decisions about program choice and transfer opportunities. Community members and stakeholders have ample time to understand the changes and how it impacts them, and that they can provide feedback, and making sure that our families have awareness of homeschool attendance boundaries based on their address for the 25-26 school year. And again, here are our next steps. Again, continue with our open house community engagements, continue to meet with those new schools that have come online with recommended attendance boundaries, report to the Board of Education, our public hearing on September the 10th. Phase 2 would begin on September the 11th. And then our board vote would happen on September the 24th. Phase 2 would begin, after the board vote on the 24th. So again, I'll just summarize our superintendent's recommendations that University Park and First Ward Creative Arts would have newly assigned attendance boundaries and they would be adjusted at Bruns Avenue Elementary. Project 2, Marie G. Davis, K-5, the recommended attendance boundaries will be adjusted to Dilworth Elementary. Current Marie G. Davis 6th through 8th grade students, the recommended attendance boundaries will be adjusted to Sedgeville Middle. And we have two options here, that this would happen in the fall of 25-26 or the fall of 26-27. And then Project 3, Dorothy J. Vaughan Academy of Technology in Parkside Elementary will become a 1 attendance boundary. All students will attend school in the current Parkside facility, and it will be a STEM partial magnet. Project 4, all current middle colleges, Cato, Harper, Levine, Maracus, will transition to early colleges, adding 9th and 10th grade students to all programs. Madam Chair, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you so much, board members. You know the drills. Look at y'all. I didn't even finish my speech. Well, guess you know the rules. Board member Nunn had her hand up first, followed by Ship.
If we can go back, thank you for the updated presentation, Dr. Balknight. If we can go back to Project 1, just so I understand timing, because I think what's extremely important to parents is not necessarily when the projects start and all that, but also like when kids are physically changing buildings and where they're going to be going, especially in lottery situations. Can you guys, I don't think it was this one, can we go forward a slide or two when we actually talked about, I think it was Dennis, your slide, sorry. The timing around like when students will enter First Ward as the middle school, when it'll be just 9th through 12th grade at Northwest. And I know it's an even longer timeline maybe with the replacement in University Park. So can you talk about like when parents would expect their attendance boundary to change, and then when will the full arts magnet programs be like fully implemented at each school?
So the recommendation, I believe, is for 2025-2026 school year, which aligns very nicely with, we start the design actually for University Park in 2025-2026. We move into the next phase of the work at Northwest in January of 2025, and we intend to be working at First Ward as soon as testing's over this coming school, the end of the school year. So early 2025, we would be at First Ward and making those modifications to welcome those middle school students immediately. So that we would be looking to implement those changes in 2025 so that we can take down the buildings that we need to take down at Northwest in order to do the next phase of work.
So, but just to clarify, at what point would middle school students start at First Ward? And at what point would it strictly just be a high school at Northwest? Is that 25-26 or is that 26-27?
25-26 is what the recommendation is.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Board member Ship.
Yes, I'm very concerned about, as we look at Marie G. Davis, Dilworth, Sedgeville. I spent over a decade in this community, so I'm very familiar with all of these schools. We say, and I think timing is important, as has been mentioned, but I'm very concerned about the space. I'm very concerned about, even though they're in the building and we've gotten them in there, what are we doing in terms of providing resources, human resources and material resources, to ensure, because families are really concerned, because this is a different demographics. This is what's going on. When we think about Marie G. Davis students going to Dilworth, which was an issue before, because when Sedgeville paired with Dilworth, we're still talking about the same schools. It was Marie G. Davis where some of those Sedgeville kids went. They didn't go to Dilworth. So here we are again talking about Marie G. Davis going to Dilworth, and the demographics and the space. And I think parents are really concerned, what are we going to do to ensure success? And every year is important, even this year, if they're over capacity. what are we gonna do here? If we do this timeline in 25, 26?
I will speak to, as I said, we walked the building just this week. The principal is a strong leader. The school is very well organized. Everything is in its place. They are prepared, they were prepared and ready to receive when we saw them earlier. I guess that was last week, to receive students this week. They were prepared to receive the 700. So the 700 to the 740, based on the enrollment for that school year, it'd be potentially 40 more students. But I would agree with you that it's a full school with students in every space. And so that's a part of the superintendent's recommendation with the two different options of the 25-26 or the 26-27, as outlined here on this slide.
Yeah, and then my follow-up question, which I asked, are we providing for, even now, resources? Are we looking at what that's gonna look like in terms of what we do with the building, anything we can do, and also human resources?
So from a facility standpoint, we made some modifications already this summer to accommodate the additional population because we knew we had the combination of the existing Sedgefield-Dilworth community in the new in the Dilworth facility until the new school is ready on the Park Road site. So with one of these options, you're looking at a year of having that number of students on the Dilworth campus before they relocate to the new school on the Park Road site, which is a new 45 classroom baseline school with a 900 student capacity. So you would have a year if you went on the 25-26 timeline where we would have about the same number of students we actually had when Dilworth was at its most packed. We had north of 700 students in that Dilworth facility at one time. So again, I don't think it's anything that anybody says, boy, we would like to sign up for this for the next 10 years. But for a year, there are some modifications that we have made and some additional things that we can evaluate and look at doing to accommodate that student population and the staff.
All right, Board Member Klein.
I'm going to continue on the Dilworth issue. We've received a lot of emails, and I just need to clarify. You said there were 700 that showed up, or is it 639 for Dilworth Elementary?
So the 639 is the projected enrollment, and once school starts, then we go to the actual physical count of students. And we were just under maybe 697 in physical count as of day
Today?
2, yes.
As of today, they had
Yes, ma'am.
697. Okay.
Yes.
So my question is, with option 2, does that allow for the opening of the new Park Road Elementary? So if you delayed it, then there's not the issue of overcrowdingness, because I walked the school too. I don't see how you can put 740 children safely in the school and with carpools, and it's a Parks and Rec facility. So if you delayed it the year that you're proposing, we wouldn't have this issue at all, right?
The new school on the Park Road site would be open August 2026.
So we would not have the issue of overcrowdedness. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Rankin.
I just want to be clear, because I heard was talking about demographics and resources. It should not matter who goes in the building, because they should be receiving the resources anyway. So if there's issues with the demographic that's going to Dilworth, I have a problem. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. So if it's a problem or idea about the group that's coming, I have an issue with that. Now, if you could clarify, you said it was 697?
Yes, sir.
That's there today, so it's overcrowded now.
Yes.
So just for clarity purposes, looking to, because we didn't see much on 26, 27 option. So for option 2, we would be doing the same thing, but delaying it for a year. Is that correct? And then the only difference would be not going to, the Marie G. Davis students would not be going to Dilworth. Everyone would then go to the new Park Road site. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they'd go to the new facility.
Same demographic?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we can support all students.
I think we can too. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Monterey Duval.
Thank you. So question, how many students per class would this equal if we were to adopt this most recent plan? And then if we're adding 100 students, what grades does this impact the most?
I do have the breakdown by grade level, and I can certainly, it may even be in the appendices by grade level, but I can share that. So we do have K-3 class size that I think started in 2017. And so we certainly have to look at our cap sizes in K-3 at Dilworth Elementary, which is what the principal is working through at this time. And so again, we are very clear as we've walked the building, as Ms. Klein has said, it is a full school, but it is safe for students. And we walk with facilities, and so we certainly have made sure that the modifications support her needs, but very creative with where the classrooms are and other things, and very supportive parent community. So we would continue to look at K-3 class size, but with 100 students across grade levels, I don't see at this time that we have a heavy concentration in one grade level, but I'll give you the exact numbers. I can share those with you tomorrow by grade level.
Thank you.
Board member?
Just for some clarification here, because I think we're using terms that maybe parents consider them something different. When you talk about capacity of the school, that's not like the fire code that only a number of people can stay in that building. And I think that's what some of the parents are getting a little concerned about, because it's happening at Bailey, it's happening at Dilworth. Can you explain what you mean by school capacity?
So I will speak to the capacity, and then I'll let Dennis talk about the safety and the fire code. So school capacity, we take an average class size. So for example, in grades K through 3, because there's state legislation about how many students can be in those classrooms, we take an average for those 3 grade levels and literally count teaching spaces in the school. Then we do the same thing for 4th and 5th grade, but because there's no cap on 4th or 5th grade, the number goes up. And so then we take that number and determine the space in the school, because we do not count mobile units. So there are 2 mobile units at Davidson,
Bailey.
Dilworth.
Dilworth. There are 2 mobile units at Dilworth, but we don't count those in the number. We're literally talking about the brick and mortar spaces in the school. But oftentimes, if you have space in a school, a teacher that is doing small group instruction may have a large classroom. So those teachers, for example, may have a small cove or a corner in the school to do the small group instruction, or they may use a teacher's classroom during their planning period, which is what Dennis was talking about earlier with Bailey, where you flex those classrooms when teachers have their planning. So they definitely are creative in when they have schools that are full.
And from a safety and capacity sort of standpoint, so an individual space has a capacity rating. You'll see a plaque that says there can only be X number of people in this chamber, right? So it's not about a facility overall, and it's about the number of means of egress from a given space. Capacity also goes to things like the number of toilets and things when we're designing and building and operating our schools. But at the end of the day, there's no sort of hard, fast number where magically a school is unsafe because we're welcoming one more student to it.
Thank you. I have another question, but I'll do my round.
So I have a question, particularly because I want to draw your attention to, as you mentioned in your presentation, as policy ASGP-E2, which is the matrix of the things that we're supposed to consider when it's determining school amount boundaries. So 1 is home to school distance. 2, it's the extent to which elementary attendance areas kept intact as part of a middle and high school feeder patterns. 3 is socioeconomic diversity of the student population. And the 4th is the utilization of school as compared to the building capacity. So you explained building capacity, so we know that, but really I think the conversation that what we're trying to hone in is on the utilization. So if you can explain what utilization, how that is compared to capacity, because in my mind, what I think is just because we can fit does not mean that we should. Like, for example, one of the examples we got in an email was that art classes are being held on the stage of an auditorium. So is that really great utilization? So if you can explain how the utilization versus capacity played in your decision-making in, for this recommendation for Marie G. Davis.
So I can give you historic perspective on utilization. For us has always been about the number of teachers versus the number of available teaching stations. So if you have 10 classrooms and you have 10 teachers, you're 100% utilized. Because we've faced allegations that because we do resource our schools differently, we have historically done that and still do with Title I dollars and things like that, that a school is not full when there is in fact a teacher in every classroom at every period. So we said, you know, a utilization is you look at the number of teachers versus the number of teaching stations that are available. When you get into a middle school or a high school, because we do design and build in planning spaces, and you have a middle school and a high school teacher who has it's a 4-block day, but they only teach 3 periods. So the period that they're supposed to plan, they're able to go to a planning room and another teacher is able to use their classroom. So you can get 130% utilization out of a given school. So if you looked at a high school and you took the roof off and there was a teacher in every classroom, every period of the entire 4-period day, you'd see 130% utilization, because we don't have anybody staying in their classroom to eat their lunch and do their planning. They're going to a planning room. So that's how the utilization gets looked at. And then there are evaluations around whether or not specials like art and music stay in a classroom, or for a period of time, they may need to go on a cart or go on the stage to accommodate a general education classroom teacher. Again, recognizing that we've never been resourced to build the schools, all the schools when we need them. Right? We don't make the decisions about what gets built from a townhome, from a single-family housing thing. So we're always sort of playing catch-up, and so we've had to flex those things in order to accommodate our populations at our neighborhood schools, because we welcome everybody to our neighborhood attendance boundary.
I'm gonna try to squeeze all this in one follow-up to follow the rule. I think that we should be careful using the language that this utilization, see how I'm gonna do this, is for 1 year, because it's not 1 year if you've already been at that school, right? So it's more than 1 year for the students that are currently there. So can you tell me what the utilization is at this 740 student, like what percentage that is?
I don't know that we've looked at the staffing model for that number of students. But again, it will also depend on the distribution of those students, as Dr. Balknight said. It's one thing if you have 100 students coming into one grade and it's 20 students per class and you have to come up with additional teachers for each one of those, or if you're distributing 100 students equally across 6 grades. And so you could be talking about potentially 1 or 2 more students per classroom and not needing an additional teacher, and therefore not actually changing the staff utilization.
So this is just a statement, it's not a question, because you may not have the answer today. So I think in accordance with our policy S-ASGP, we need to know what their utilization would be.
132%.
So this is the second round, I think everybody had, so board membership.
Yes, I'm gonna move away from, because I could talk a lot about that when Reggie Davis got in. But I want to mention Bruns, because I'm concerned that as we look at what's going on with First Ward and University Park, we're talking about Bruns, okay? And we did that with Lincoln Heights. So I'm concerned about those students going to Bruns, even though we have capacity and it's a new school, but we really need to look at the population, the demographics, and what are we providing so that those kids will be successful. And you've mentioned lottery and transfer, but let's think about how that happens, and will that happen for these students?
So I'll just speak to, we have a standard formula of how we support and allocate students. And then if students fall into other categories, they get additional funding and resources. And so our schools are staffed, as Mr. Lacaria mentioned earlier, very well. We have lots of additional support staff in our schools, and then we support our classrooms with resources. We have provision resources for our schools to use. That's a core experience for every school in the district. We also have a core experience for them with support staff and with teachers. So for me, The school will have the resources no matter what the school. If there's something more specific, then we certainly can follow up and talk about that.
Lottery and transfer.
We are going to these schools and meeting with families. Every time we come to the board, we go back to the schools to say, we've met with the board again, here's some additional information, even if it's just an updated slide deck. And we're gathering information from them. And I have said to families, as I've gone to the schools, we'll be back with the team to sit down and schedule appointments at the school. You don't have to go to the student assignment office. You don't have to go anywhere. We're going to meet with you individually, provide that Crown experience for you to make decisions as a family. What's the best choice for your students, which is why we need decisions to be made in a timely manner so that we can open up the lottery program and communicate that to families. Just this past weekend, and even this week, our staff from student assignment, they were having pop-up events in the community, enrolling students on the spot, basically 100 a day at each pop-up event, and they would have that same Crown experience that you don't have to go anywhere. We're going to come to you. The decisions have been made by the board, parents. This is the decision. Here are all of your options. Let's sit down and talk about together which is the best option. I think that also feeds into the earlier conversation about when you're thinking about an elementary student, think about those pathways and opportunities, so making sure those families get that information early. We absolutely have committed to taking care of the families as a part of the comprehensive review in that way.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have Byers Bailey. Oh, Lord, we got another round. Klein and Easley. Oh, one more, none, okay.
Thank you. I guess I'm concerned about, I've heard a lot and transferred a lot of emails regarding Sedgefield, Dilworth receiving Marie G. Davis students. I went to the in-person community outreach. There was no parents there, but it was in 10 o'clock in the morning and those people work. I was told that they have received, been contacted virtually, but they're not emailing us about their concerns. So I can only surmise how I would feel if I were in that community. And I don't know that I'm happy going over there when I was content going right here. And I don't know what I don't know what my other options are because my voice isn't in the room.
So thank you for lifting that. We actually started with Marie G. Davis initially after the first time we shared with the board. We had a 10 o'clock session. We stayed all day and talked with staff and then stayed till 6. And so we had a large crowd at 6 o'clock, and then the staff has gone back since then. We will continue to go back. We've also had lots of online opportunities. The principal was really good about making sure the community was aware, so we did gather good feedback from them. As I shared earlier, a lot of their feedback initially, so we need to go back again, was that they were more interested in potentially other schools that did not meet our policy. And so that's how we ended up with this school opportunity. But we have lots of them that are in the IB program. They've signed up for the IB program, even though it's their home school. So they could very well choose the IB option, which we would share with them as well.
So the next time, can I follow? Yeah. The next time we visit this issue, I think it would be helpful for me to see what the community has actually expressed an interest in, where they want to go. Because we are maybe making all these arrangements for kids that don't even want to go there. And all of this interest in Sedgefield and Dilworth are talking about a phantom.
Board Member Klein?
I'm going to switch from Dilworth to Sedgefield, but I still continue to have concerns. Looking at the magnet partial, before we get into looking at partial programs, I was hoping we would see a true study of the magnet choice program for the district so that to help transportation, because of all the emails I've gotten tonight and today due to transportation issues, that we get away from partial and get into true magnet schools, not programs, because obviously that's a misnomer, and that it's a true magnet school. And we've got a lot of programs here, but we don't have the study to say what we need for the district. And I know that's something that the board has asked for.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for lifting that. So let me clarify. So for example, with Dorothy J. Vaughan, the recommendation to go to Parkside, all the students in the school would participate in the STEM program. It's called a partial magnet because we would have seats for students to come into the program that aren't in the attendance boundary. So I don't know if that's the first part of the question. In addition, these programs were decided and voted on to be moved. So we're moving forward with the attendance boundaries, but you're absolutely right. In phase 2, we will go deep. We've used third-party national partners that will give us the feedback on our CTE programming, our magnet programming, the 10-year forecast on the demographics, the demography study in the community about where the housing market, where our growth's going to be in the community, so that we know where we should consider to maybe relieve some capacity or move some students into or put a magnet program in. So all of that is in phase 2. But the things in phase 1, as I lifted the last time, are things that were already in motion that we needed to sort of make a decision about and move forward so that we can inform our parents for the lottery this season for 25-26.
Okay, and that's awesome. What I would like for you to look at as part of your study is to go back to the original concept of magnets, that neighborhood students, that's their home school. So you get away from the title partial, that you live behind Parkside Elementary, and it's a magnet. That's your home school, and you get the advantage of walking to school, or that's your assigned school. You don't have to go someplace else.
And that's a great example. That's exactly what Parkside will be. So the current Parkside students do not have access to STEM. So
Right.
the whole school will have access to STEM. And then the students that are attending Dorothy J. Vaughan would be a part, their program would move over. So they get to keep their STEM programming. And then as students graduate out of elementary, new STEM students come in, but the Parkside students in that attendance boundary would have STEM moving forward. All the teachers will be trained. Everyone in the school would get STEM.
So that would be just a STEM magnet.
Yes, ma'am, that's a great example of a neighborhood program that would have a STEM program and allow students to move into the program as well through our magnet process.
Okay, great.
Board Member Easley?
I'm going to make the jump to the middle colleges because I have lots of questions about that. Once again, this is another one we've gotten a lot of feedback on from the, so help me understand. I'm not very familiar with the early colleges versus the middle colleges. So why is this move happening? Why are we adding 2 grades to a program that has been successful for a long time?
So I really see this as an and, so it's not taking anything away from students, it's in addition to. So currently, students in the middle college program do not receive transportation. If we make these all early colleges, they'll receive transportation. Currently, students in the middle college program and the early college are able to participate in extracurricular and sports at their home school. That still will remain. We currently have waiting lists at some of our early college programs. This would allow us to have more seats to give more students access, and we could zone the school so the students aren't traveling as far with bus transportation. So for me, it's an and, it's not a takeaway. It's actually creating a more robust program than with all the things that we've lifted up that the early college program just in general provides to students with a 2-year associate's degree, and them having the 4 years to do that and build that connection with the community college and with those students. So I see this really as an and. No one is losing anything in this situation. We're not taking anything away from them. They're getting more.
Any follow-up?
Not for that one. I have more
Okay.
questions.
What was over here? None.
I actually want to stay on this topic too, because we've gotten quite a bit of feedback. So my understanding, the concept of middle colleges is, your junior and senior year, it allows you, and it kind of forays into our earlier conversations around the goals of CTEs and pathways. So I want to understand how college and associates all play into that too. The feedback we've gotten is a lot of kids don't necessarily feel ready at 9th or 10th grade per se, and they haven't even gotten a GPA or a traditional experience. So if we turn it into an early college, does that mean that the option of the middle college is eliminated, or they'll still be able to transfer in at 10th, 11th, or 12th grade? Can you just help me understand?
So they would need to make the decision in 9th grade.
Okay.
Sometimes you're able to, if there is a seat that's open in 10th grade, depending on their coursework, we may be able to accommodate a student which will be the rare occasion if we have seats, because we want to continue to keep that group moving through and maximizing those seats, but they would need to come in ninth grade.
And and a follow-up to that, do we have, you mentioned, I know we have one early college today, right? And it's got a waiting list. Is it more than one?
We have multiple early colleges.
They're different themes, though.
have
Am I
three
making
early
that up?
Some are consistently the same,
Okay.
which is a part of the conversation. Then we do have some that are very specific, like the teacher early college.
There's teacher and like the engineering.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But there's some that have a variety of general associate's degree programs that we would take those and work with these four early colleges so that we could provide consistency across the district, so that as a student, I maybe don't have to get on as many express stops because I can get to the one closest to my neighborhood. Also, I have more access because, again, they don't have transportation today to middle colleges. They
Yeah.
have to provide their own.
Yeah, I think one of the things, you may not have it today, and it's okay, it's a follow-up, is one, I would love to see like what the subscription or the oversubscription to these programs look like, as well as what the current capacity and subscription at the middle colleges is. I think it would just be good for us to have that data. In addition, I had a second thing that I'm losing track of thought right now. Oh, it was program related, like, because I know some of them are very specific. What is the program and the access to it again? Because as we think about this 7th grade check-in, you're gonna have to make a decision by 8th grade to enter these. What do those pathways look like too across?
So in the appendices, and we'll add the programming of each in there as well, but the information about the wait list for the programs,
Okay.
that's already available in there.
Perfect.
But the other thing, that if you're in a four-year early college, as a student, just like many of us did when we were in college, we changed our majors, right? When you're in a four-year early college, when you're there on campus for 4 years and you decide, I'm not really interested in the Associates of Arts, maybe I want to do the Associates of Science. They're already on the campus, they have that flexibility to change. They can take some courses in the summer because they're really a hybrid high school college student. They get their college degree before they get their high school diploma when they graduate. Dr. Hill, I'm
Can
sorry.
I just speak? I just want to speak from a point of personal experience. So my daughter is currently at Central Piedmont Early College. She's a sophomore. And so I had a meeting today with her counselor, and we were talking about, is she going to take the track of Associates in Science, or is she going to take the track of Associates in Arts, depending on her post-secondary experience? And so what she was explaining to me right now, and this is what the counselor said to me, I'm really excited. One of the beautiful things about the early college model is you have students in 9th and 10th grade, so you can make those discrete changes to really support them so they finish within 4 years. So right now, our middle colleges have the 13th year. You heard us talk about the 13th year, which essentially means that kids are in high school for 5 years instead of 4, and that's because they don't have the time to make those discrete changes. So my child right now, she's a sophomore, she only needs 3 more credits to be completely done with her high school. 3 credits, and she's a sophomore, first semester, 3 more credits. Everything else she takes after that will be towards her, she decided today, her Associates in Science. So just the extra 2 years allows students more time to really figure out what they want to do to finish with their associates and then graduate with their high school diploma. And then the other thing that I wanted to say about kids on-ramping, we would probably discourage it. Like Dr. Balknight said, there might be a rare instance. But the other thing that this does for us in meeting with Dr. Diedemeyer, who is the president of Central Piedmont, is it allows us to push some other coursework into our traditional high schools for students and provide additional opportunities without students having to leave their traditional high school. So like Dr. Balknight said, this is really an opportunity for an and. We're not really taking anything away. We're actually providing more experiences. And if you really think about it, we're increasing our capacity because right now our middle colleges are sitting at about 193 kids. So we would be expanding 4 schools to a capacity of 400, which would alleviate traditional high schools. And I would even say maybe even attract more people who aren't currently in Charlotte.
We group those under buildings and facilities utilization. We're not saying those projects are connected, but just to chunk the projects. So for example, if you go to project 1, it's really about the expansion of the arts in the district. It's not so much that the three are related, they happen to be, but then also in project 2, we've talked about Montessori program expansion because all of those moves are occurring to move J.T. Williams into a larger site for Montessori. So in project 3, all of those projects, Davidson K-8, move into Bailey Middle School, and then Dorothy J. Vaughan and Parkside, we're utilizing our facilities. So we're moving Dorothy J. Vaughan into Parkside because they have space and capacity, and because Dorothy J. Vaughan, as Dennis would share, needs lots of additional supports and work, and Parkside is a newer facility. I think Dorothy J. Vaughan is a replacement for Newell, or Newell replaced it.
That's right. Parkside and New Newell actually opened in 2015. So 2015 was when Dorothy J. Vaughan was the old Newell was last used as the old Newell facility, the same year that Parkside actually opened.
So in other words, the purpose and function of this project is to maximize our facility use. It's not necessarily about the programming at DJV. It's about how do we get those students out of a building that's not great.
All right, next I have Dr. Witherspoon.
Sure.
Christine, can I follow up with, we have 5 elementary full magnets that are STEM, and then 2 K-8 full magnets. Paw Creek, Ray Farms, Walter G. Byers, Wingate Park, Oakhurst, Bruns, and Governor's Village.
Wait a minute.
So those are STEM, they're not full magnets. Those have STEM programming, and then we have 2 K-8.
Just when you get time, just ones that, I'm talking about programs that do not have attendance boundary. That's when I say full magnet, I'm talking about programs that do not have full magnets. And we can,
That's right.
we can send
Northwest.
that.
Yes, sir.
Like Northwest is what you're,
Northwest.
yeah, Northwest, like.
Whenever we get a chance, you can send it to me later.
Okay, Dr. Witherspoon.
Sure, thank you. Just going back to Regis Davis, and no, not really. I want option 2, because I've received several emails too. Is it possible to develop option 2 just so we have a full scope and make a, on the timeline that is?
Can you provide additional clarity with the timeline with option 2, meaning that, just to be clear on the slide, that the students would not go to the current Dilworth, they would just go to the new school?
Right.
And they would open in August 2026? Yes, sir, we absolutely can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that what you were asking? I'm sorry to interject. Is that what you were asking for?
Yeah, so we have the recommendation, but then there's also option 2, 2026, 2027, so
So basically.
what would that look like? Yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought you were asking.
Follow up, Dr. Witherspoon? No,
I
I'm
don't, we
asking.
didn't answer his
No,
question.
I'm asking if you have a follow-up.
Hold on a minute, we didn't answer his question.
I'm clear, we're good, thank you.
All right. Next, I have, we clear? Okay.
Can I go? Is it me?
No, it's, Klein.
Wait.
All right.
I have her.
This goes back to the middle colleges.
It's 3 more people.
How much money does CMS supplement to CPCC in addition to what the state gives for tuition? So D right here is a CMS student who goes to one of the early colleges. How much do we supplement his CPC courses?
I would want to go back to make sure that I don't leave anything out. At a high level, we support their supplies, their resources, some tuition. However, the partnership with CPCC, our expense for what we get for our students is a small value add, but if I can follow up, I'll add that to the appendices, the actual cost per student
Yeah,
that we spend.
I'm great that, I want to know how much we take out of our pocket. I see a hand, my good peripheral vision.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ms. Klutz, it's just the fees. It's just instructional fee, like, we don't pay Central Piedmont anything.
So we don't supplement any fees, like, tuition?
They get full-time enrollment, like we get ADM for students from the state, they get FTEs for those students, and so that offsets the cost of our students participating on their
So
campus.
they get the FTEs. Do we lose the FTEs or are we double dipping?
No, that's the beauty of the partnership.
So it's technically double dipping.
It's not, no. It is not double dipping.
Okay,
It is
I just wanna make
legislated, no,
sure.
it is legislated by the state that there is a partnership between community colleges and institutions of higher education and public schools, because they understand that even though they're at Central Piedmont, we still have to support the students. So, for example, at Central Campus, the college tuition is paid, so they receive FTEs, but we still get ADMs because we have a school principal that we have to pay for. We have teachers, the way it's set up, that all the students still have to take a high school course, even if they're every single year. So we have to fund our high school. We have to provide transportation, all of those things that
We don't provide transportation, but if we go to early college, we would.
I'm talking about the early college model right
Okay.
now. So we provide transportation, we have to provide food, everything that you would provide for a normal CMS student, you have to provide. So we're not double dipping.
Okay.
Now, in terms of allocations, our early colleges, of course, don't receive the same level of allocation because, as I mentioned, the students, if they have 400 kids, about 200 of them are taking college courses at any given time. So you don't need as many teachers, so the allotments are a little bit different. But in terms of what we're required to pay is fees, books, for, things that they would need like that, but instructional supplies, and then we pay for our staff. But we do not pass through any funds to CP, and even the lease. We do have a lease space agreement. I don't know if you want to talk to that.
Yes, it's an agreement on the space itself, but it's not anything that's obligatory on our
I
end.
just want to look at the cost effectiveness for CMS. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right, Board Member Easley?
Okay, so I'm going to try to combine this all into one question here. I'm going to kind of jump off of what Board Member Klein said about the relationship between CMS and CPCC. Several of the emails that I received said, we have a really good relationship right now. Are 14 and 15-year-olds able to handle the rigor and the requirement to meet the early colleges, as well as we're going to have a 14-year-old on a college campus with potential 21-year-olds. How does that all tie into this?
That's a great question. So students in 9th and 10th grade especially, so for example, we have our safety staff on the campus just like it's a traditional regular high school. In fact, last year, one of the things that we had to do was shift some staff to make sure, because of how the grade level was seated on the campus, we put some additional safety there as well. In 9th and 10th grade, they are very much 9 through 12 dual enrolled, so they take those high school courses with some of those things like freshman 101 and other things that they do to make sure that as those students are on the community college campus, they are preparing them to a gradual release, so to speak. I'm already on the campus, I'm taking one college course, and then I can ramp up versus waiting to my junior year and I start taking those community college courses and maybe I haven't had the support to prepare for them as I would have if I had been on the campus since 9th grade.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. DeBonis.
Okay, hopefully, maybe I'll be finishing this off with the middle school.
That's what I'm talking about. Let them know.
maybe. But I just
I hope the same thing, but we'll see.
I just wanted to see if right now for the recommendation is to have all of them turn into early colleges, but have we explored the option of maybe having one certain campus still remain as a middle college? I know obviously that may not be the best for transportation-wise, but that could definitely give students an opportunity to still have a middle college experience if they're not ready to go directly into the early college.
I think that's a great suggestion. One of the things that I think that Ms. Nunn has lifted up, that if they want to just do the 2 years, we have many students that do that in a comprehensive high school, and we can support them in that way. In our partnership, our community college instructors go to the campus, some drive over to the community college to take courses, so they could still have that opportunity through a comprehensive high school if they didn't want to start until their junior year.
You have a follow-up?
I want to.
You can ask it. Go ahead.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Last call.
Can Ms. Klutz speak to Ms. Klein's question about funding?
Yes.
We just wanted to mention that the state has some supplemental funding also to support our early college programs. We've got $900,000 annually for, as long as our early college programs have been with us, that help with those additional costs, like those, especially those fees that are associated. So the tuition is covered by the community college, but students generally have to pay those fees. So we're paying those fees on their behalf. So we do get additional supplemental funding from the state.
So is that for early or for both early and middles?
Just the early colleges.
Okay. So by going to early colleges versus the middle, you get the 900,000.
So it's a little more complicated than that. So you have to apply for an early college, and when you move over, you apply for the early college, but you also apply for the grant at the same time. Often the state will approve the early college, but they won't have funds for additional grants. The state has not provided additional early college grants in the last couple of budget years. So it's unlikely that we'll get the grant portion, but we can certainly apply for it.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you so much.